All right, everyone, welcome back for week 3. And we had a nice little bounce back week last week. We went 8-4, positive 3.5 units. And if you count in the touchdown parlays as individual bets, we were 10-5 with 4.9 units. So good bounce back. We added some extra picks. And overall standings for the season, Stone is 7-3, Jamie is 6-3, and then I'm at the bottom, like always, at 3-7. But we do have a pretty heated battle going on up there at the top. So I'll pass it to Stone for his opening remarks since he's in first place.
I will say, even though you're at the bottom, you are doing the best in the game category, and you do have an extra pick this week. So I feel like you have a chance to get some ground this week if you make some good picks.
There's some hope. I
There
have
is
hope.
hope for sure.
All right, Jamie, 6-3, second place, coming off the championship. Any comments?
Feeling good. I'm getting into these first 2 weeks. You got to feel out how the season's going to go. I will say, we might have shadowed how the NFL is trending. We picked the winner last year, picked a bunch of running backs. We have ESPN complaining about the Tampa 2, the coverage, causing the games to be slower. I think that means more running backs. You need to have a good running back to start winning in this league. We're shifting back to the RB.
Yep. I saw some crazy stats where there's been more field goals and touchdowns or something, or passing touchdowns, something ridiculous.
Interesting. I know
Yeah,
last week the under hit a lot, and the underdogs won a lot as well. But
I think there was like something like 30 less passing touchdowns
Yeah, like the
by this.
past few years, it's
Yeah,
been like over 100 passing touchdowns the first couple weeks, and then now it's at like 65 or something ridiculous.
dang. Well, might have to X out my board here. No, I'm just kidding. But with that being said, we're gonna do game picks first for week 3. I'll have 3 picks. I'll pick first, and then you guys, and then Stone just based off units, and then Jamie after that with 2 picks from there, and then it'll almost be the opposite uh, when we get to the player props. But I'm gonna ride the hot hand for me. One of the only things I've gotten right and picked them every week. I'm gonna take Arizona versus Detroit over 51.5. I've been on the over for Arizona the first 2 weeks. It's 2-0. I'm not going to move away from it yet. And this was the highest over under on the board at minus 110. Might have, I think it was trending in the lower direction at like 50.5 this morning, but we'll lock in 51.5. That's what I have in my notes for the first pick of the week.
Yeah, I was looking at this as well. I looked at it this morning on DraftKings. It was 51 and a half at minus 112 still. So it was on my
Okay,
board, so you sniped it from me. I will
nice.
say Arizona's 2-0 hitting the over, but Detroit is 0-2 hitting the over. So we'll see how it goes.
the offense has to come around sometime, right?
That's true, yeah.
I agree.
Um, my next pick, I'm going to take Baltimore minus 1 at minus 110. Lamar Jackson as a starter is 20-1 against NFC teams.
Hmm.
Um, I don't like how Dallas looked against the Saints. The Saints just come in there and blow them out. It's kind of crazy. And I think Baltimore, even though they're 0-2, I think they're a better team than the Saints. And I think Lamar will be 21-1 against NFC teams this week.
Great
All
stat.
right. I like that.
Beats it up.
We're bringing the heat today.
Yeah.
All right.
Uh,
Everyone's back. We got Jamie's up next.
so I'm going to take the Saints -3, and this is even money, plus 100 versus Philadelphia. I always like even money, especially on a field goal. There's a chance that I could, just void this one out. But Philly has the 25th rush defense. We just saw the Saints run all over the Cowboys, and they're at home.
Yeah, the Saints are hot right now. -3 at home is pretty good. So I'm gonna you might notice a trend with me today, but I'm expecting there to be a bounce back in Vegas for these overs that we just talked about that haven't been hitting because there's no passing touchdowns. And last week there was a lot of unders. So I'm taking the Texans and the Vikings over 46.5 at minus 112. Texans look like their offense is unstoppable. Minnesota threw up some highlight plays and could get the ball to Justin Jefferson. This could turn into a shootout. 46 is on the lower side of not the lower side, kind of right in the middle of the whole pack this week, but not afraid of that number. It's not like the 52 that I just put up there on the board, so that's what I'm going to be taking for my second pick.
Nice. This next pick might seem a little crazy, especially with some of the news around Justin Herbert, but I'm gonna take Chargers +3 at minus 115. I've picked the Chargers the first 2 weeks and I've won both of them. I think even with Justin Herbert gone, it's gonna be such a low scoring game. Even with Justin Herbert there, John Harbaugh he wants to run the ball, and I think that's their game plan. Regardless, I think it's going to be a low scoring game, and I like the Chargers as a team more than the Steelers.
I don't think the Steelers are going to score.
Yeah.
I think this is.
So if they do, it's field goals, right?
Yeah.
So kind of like Commanders-esque. But you know, I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. It's tight. Spreads are always tight.
The over/under is 34, which is just ridiculous.
Yeah, that's pretty low.
Like 17-17, 17-16, whatever.
And this line looks a lot better if Justin Herbert manages to play as well. So.
Yeah. All right, Jamie, last pick for you.
For me, I mean, you just got to fade the worst team in the NFL. Even with a QB change, I'm going to take the Raiders at -6. To cover 6, I guess I should say, at minus 108.
Minus 108. Las Vegas.
Like I said, even with the QB change, I mean, the Panthers are giving up an incredible amount of yards per carry to the rush. They're just a bad team overall. It's not just Bryce. Their offensive line is terrible. I don't think it helps that much put Andy Dalton back there.
Yeah, I don't think it helps out much either. That franchise just seems to be in shambles, starting from the owner all the way down. So I'm staying away from him. But the last pick I have, go with the theme here of the week. I'm just hoping to get 2 out of the 3, move up to 4 picks next week. I'm taking Baltimore at Dallas, and I'm taking over in that game as well. The over on that is 47.5. This game is Dallas wants to bounce back from the Saints debacle last week, and then on top of that, Baltimore wants to bounce back from their debacle. I think this could get unhinged as well, and so I'll lay the 47.5 at minus 110, and I hope that the books get kind of repartitioned in a over fashion for this week, and I got 3 of them.
Yeah,
where we're at.
That was on my list as well. I like that one a lot.
All right, so we'll pivot into the player props. Last week, I just want to put the stat out there because I thought you guys were going to address it in the beginning. I feel like there's about to be a war on running backs. Both Jamie and Stone are 3-0 on running back props this year. The more picks they get, the more they're going to be taking them from each other. There's only so many of them. Now, just because of units, it'll be Stone first with 3 picks, Jamie second with 3 picks, and myself with 2 picks. So, Stone, whenever you're ready.
I guess I'll be continuing the theme here because I kind of have to. But I'm going to go James Cook over 62.5 rushing yards at minus 120. Jacksonville looks pretty bad this year. James Cook is the guy in Buffalo. He seems like the main pivot point for their offense, with no receivers for Josh Allen to throw to, and I think James Cook I think they're gonna be winning the game, and I think he's gonna get a lot of usage.
I did not have that one on my list.
Damn. Nice. So you're gonna snipe one of my other ones I have here.
Yeah, so at least for this week, there might be enough to go around. If we expand. But James Cook gets a ton of time back there, so I think that's an excellent pick.
Jamie.
I'm gonna go with. I got a couple here, but the one I love to fade the Broncos rush defense. I'm gonna go with Bucky Irving
Ooh.
over 28.5 rush yards. So I like a deep dive here. I mean, Denver's given up 143 rush yards a game. They just gave up 80 to Najee and 40 to Jalen. So I feel like Bucky can get this maybe on one rush. But in addition to that, Rashard White is only averaging 2 yards per carry. He's 25 carries, 49 rush yards. They have to, get the rush game going, and I think that starts with Bucky.
This was not on my board, but that is why I love the podcast. I will be 100% hammering this.
Yeah. One more thing. Rashad was limited in practice up until Friday with a groin. So there is a thought that even, if this game gets out of hand, they might just take, White out of the game completely to save his groin a little bit and let Bucky take it from there.
Yeah, I liked Bucky Irving in college, and when you get in that board and you go down there low and grab that backup running back, that's what gets my juices going. So I was looking, pretty much my whole board is balance out on the overs and a get right game for some teams that are struggling or some players that are struggling, and I would lay this number even if it was 110 yards. But the Commanders secondary is the worst secondary I've ever. I'm wearing my new Commanders hoodie I got for my birthday. I got all, I'm watching the game every week. Jamar Chase has to get right against somebody. We just gave up 127 to Malik Neighbors. They gave up almost 300 passing against Baker Mayfield. And I just think on Monday night, Jamar Chase is absolutely going to cook the Washington Commanders. That number is a crazy number. It's 80.5 at minus 120. But I'm laying it. It could have been 100 and I would lay it. This is where Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase are going to get right, because this secondary is absolute garbage.
Yeah, any true Commanders fan knows that we just play absolutely terrible on Monday nights. Anytime we're in prime time, it's not good. So yeah.
Yeah, I remember the last primetime game I watched of the Commanders. They got smoked by Justin Fields and DJ Moore last year, and the Bears were not good last year.
There you go. Excellent point.
We got our first win in the Jaden Daniels era last week on all field goals, and on top of that, when the coach went to the press conference at the end of the game, he said he didn't even know who was going to play. He's still evaluating who's even going to be back there. And this is going to be the best guy we've faced so far this year. He's going to absolutely cook. So I'll pass it back to Stone for his second pick.
All right, I'm going with another running back here. Tony Pollard over 64.5 rushing yards at minus 125. The coach for the Titans has come out after both weeks and trashed Will Levis for making just terrible decisions. I think they're going to take it out of his hands so he can't make any more stupid plays and give it to Tony Pollard, who's looked pretty good and looked like the guy in Tennessee.
Again, I didn't have this one on the board, but I was familiar. I'm going to touch on this game probably a little later, hopefully. Yeah, that when he was screaming, "What are you doing?" He's hurdling a guy and then throwing a shovel pass. I mean, that is it's terrible.
They could have covered both games, though. That's the one thing I want to leave out there. That yes, that was really bad, but Tennessee's on my board in the future of like these numbers start getting out of hand and they can cover that, take out the turnovers, and anyway, I'll leave it at that. Jamie, you're up.
They're not a bad team. No, they're not a bad team. So anytime I get to crap on the Cowboys, I think I'm going to take the opportunity. There are cracks in this defense. Okay, they set up this defense to be small and fast, and that's worked when the NFL was a passing league. We're shifting back to the running league. You're undersized and you're getting beat up. I'm going to take Derrick Henry over 66.5 rushing yards at minus 120. Some additional stats. They gave up 190 to the Saints. It's 115 to Kamara. And, they look good versus the Browns. Well, if you do a deep dive into the stats, they gave up 4.9 yards per carry to the Browns. They only rushed it 19 times for 93 yards because they were getting blown out. But that rush defense has not looked good since the beginning of the year. We all know how good Baltimore's rush defense and offense is in general. So I think, last week Henry had negative yards going in the half, I believe, and then he ended up with 90 some. So he can go off at any given time.
I feel like Henry's been on our board every single week. I could be mistaken about that, but I think he's a favorite of ours right now.
Henry just needs like one play for like a 90-yard run or something ridiculous.
Well, it's tough when you got Lamar back there and they're doing the read option. I mean, do you stop Lamar? Lamar can go for 60 yards himself. So you got to commit a guy, and that's just one less guy to tackle Henry.
Yeah, when I think of him, I always think of him like just bruising people all game, and then he gets like a 30-yarder in the third or fourth quarter because people are making business decisions out there, and hopefully that'll turn up pretty soon for the Ravens. So I'm pretty torn on this next pick because I normally go after people that are going to get increased workload when injuries happen, but then I also haven't won a player prop. I'm 0 for 4 on player props, so I had two kind of sides here. I was like, go with things that feel normal, good, and it's going to happen. Take a chance on something. I'm going to go with Nico Collins for the Texans. I'm thinking this game's going to go over. His number's pretty ridiculous, but he had a great showing the first 2 weeks at over 73.5 receiving, and that's at minus 120. The one I'm going to regret not putting on there is I do like Carson Steele, but I'll just no extra bets, no extra picks. I'm just going to leave it at that. This is a tough one.
No. Listen to this. You sniped this pick for me. This is going to be my third pick.
Ooh, nice.
I got some monster stats for this pick. I was hoping no one would take this and I could save it for last. So if you have nothing else to add, let me just go into these deep stats for Nico. He has over 80 yards in 5 out of 6 of his last games, including playoffs. He has a 33% target per route run share. So every 3 routes he runs, he gets targeted. Nice. He has a 100% target rate, or 100% catch rate when he's targeted. And the Vikings have given up a 74% catch rate, 12 yards per catch, and 5 completions over 20 yards to outside wide receivers. Nico is the number 1 double-teamed wide receiver and has put up over 100 yards in both Week 1 and Week 2. I do not do, guarantees, but this would be the closest one that I had. And I was saving it for last. I really felt good about that one, but you sniped it.
Okay, so you're saying there's a chance. Okay.
I like Collins too. I like Collins a lot. I think he's the dude in Houston, and he's gonna have a great season.
All right, love it.
All right, so my first 2 bets, they're the odds minus 120, minus 125. Not a huge fan of that, so I'm gonna try and balance it out with this one. And it's not a running back, but it's a sack line. I'm going. The Chicago Bears and Caleb Williams have given up the tied most sacks through 2 weeks. That line looks terrible. Caleb Williams is struggling. I'm going with Kwity Paye over 0.25 sacks at plus 105. He was the second leading sack leader on the Colts last year, and I think he just needs like a half sack and he gets this line. The Bears are giving up 4.5 sacks a game. I think that's very doable.
What were the odds again?
Plus 105.
Yeah, get some value there. Now, I mean, with Caleb, and I think with any rookie quarterback, they tend to take longer to throw, and especially with Caleb, with his ability to run outside the pocket or make magic happen, he extends it too long, and that leads to sacks.
And that's Kwity Paye, Paye, Paye.
Paye. I just put Pay.
Yeah.
He also really hasn't put himself in a like the Bears haven't put himself in a position to really like they're not winning. They're not running the ball. Like there's other things that are kind of going into it too. That teams the first 2 weeks are just teeing off on them because they need to make a comeback because it accuracy, whatever it is. But I'm gonna pass it to Jamie. Say your point. I'll make the put it up here in a second, but I can hear the baby crying, so I'm gonna go grab him. But pass it to Jamie.
I didn't have a big explanation for this one because it's my backup, but I'm going to take Najee over 14.5 rush attempts, and that's at minus 120. I think this should be a close game with the Chargers. And in the first 2 games, he's had 20 and 17 rush attempts. The Chargers' rush defense isn't great, isn't terrible, middle of the pack. So hopefully he can get 15 for me.
I think there's going to be a lot of running in that game.
Yeah. I mean, the Chargers like to run, and, Pittsburgh definitely doesn't want Justin Fields throwing it 30 times, so agree.
I really thought someone was going to put this under on their card and just grind out the stinker, but, it was a very low number, so...
I was thinking about it, and then I think the line just like plummeted when Herbert got injured, and I was like, 34 is just too much for me.
What was the odds on that?
It is minus 120. Throwing a lot of chalk out there.
That's all right. We got to get some wins up so we can really get this podcast flourishing here. So that's going to close out our weekly picks. And now last thing, which is, I won't call it the bane of my existence yet, but I have let us down 2 weeks in a row on our touchdown parlay. And this is I didn't pick great picks last year, but this was something I had a winning record in. So you guys are 2-0. I'm 0-2. And the difference from us having a fat stack right here is me. So I'm gonna play it safe this week. But just based off how we have it set up, it'll be Stone, Jamie, and then myself, just based off our standings.
All right. There's nobody else left on the Rams to score touchdowns, so I'm gonna take Kyren Williams at minus 110.
Good call.
Yeah, I can't argue with that one.
All right, Jamie, you're next.
So we did get to come back to this. Stone touched on it. Tony Pollard plus 110.
All right, and then mine, which is going to be a lot of chalk, and I'm going to take a big name off the board. Hasn't got a touchdown yet, but has a lot of workload, and that's Bijan Robinson from the Falcons. Are playing the Chiefs this week. I think if they keep it, they got to keep it close on one way or the other, and I think he's going to have a lot of action. Hopefully, he gets to the touchdown. But that is probably the softest one of the week at minus 130. Probably the softest one of the year, but I got to get on the board here. All right. And so parlay on this plus 600. So I'll get that locked in today. And does anybody have any final thoughts for week 3?
I don't think so.
Go running backs.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that you said we were both 3-0 on running backs, and you decided to go with 2 wide receivers this week. Just saying.
Who, me?
Yeah.
Yeah, so let me go ahead and put that stat out there. I'm 0-3 in wide receivers, and I'm trying to get the numbers back up a little. I got to balance. You bet red. Eventually, it's going to hit red. You got to have.
Sounds like a fallacy to me.
No, this is exactly what they tell you. It does not have to hit red. I mean, mathematically, which Connor is a mathematician. Eventually, yes, it does, but not in your lifetime. It could hit black for all eternity and then hit red a million years from now, buddy.
Oh yeah, and then on the touchdown parlay side, just as a note, every person I picked didn't score a touchdown that week, but the next week they got a touchdown. McBride, Wilson, and I just need this trend I need to get
That
synced
McBride
up.
touchdown last week was ridiculous, though. He fell on
Was
the fumble.
totally ridiculous, but
But it counts.
It
It
does
counts.
count,
right?
yeah.
If that was plus 1100, it wouldn't even matter.
Yeah, it would have. Yep.
Imagine winning a parlay like
On
that.
that, yeah,
Yeah.
that would have been
Yeah.
insane.
That's what we need. That's what I need to get this back from 3-7. But I appreciate everyone for joining us this week. We'll get the video out for next week. Hopefully, we get some more picks. This thing starts to kind of take flight, and we win some more money. And I think we're pretty close to the positive. But if we could start building up some equity earlier in the season, it'd be good to have for later on. But I will chat with everybody next week.